God is here.
Amen.
And I'd rather God is here with a few of us than we have a million of us and God is not here. Good worship this morning. God is here.
Amen.
And because of that, I love the Lord and I just love Him. We are blessed to be alive. We are blessed to be here in this midst this morning. Children, you are dismissed. Please walk. Walk. I'm going to go up the rest of Sunday school. And those of you who are far back there, I'm going to leave you all alone. I'm going to let you all move up, but you all sit here for a reason. First Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday, right? It's a beautiful, another month we start. The year is going by so quickly. And we serve a God that is preparing for His return. And as we get prepared for His return, one of the things that the Lord has laid on my mind is for us to know what we are doing and what we believe in and where we're going. Because the more I read and the more I see, the more that there are a lot of confusions. And we're just going to go over and just talk about the things that God wants us to see. Because I believe that what we are doing, He is a real God who hears, who feels, and He has a mission and a purpose for each of our lives. Our lives are not here, Shelley, to have your children and your husband and your mother and your father. All of those are part of your life, but God has a specific purpose why He brought Shelley into the world. And if Shelley does not fulfill that specific purpose, she will not find her fulfillment in life. Because just think about it, you get married and you say, that's your life. Then you have children and you say, that's your life. And then guess what? The children needs and marriage end, and what happens to your life? So your life can be based on certain things that we need. We need a higher calling, and God is that higher calling to understand that He has a mission and a purpose. The day that He thought of Ramon, He had a mission and a purpose for your life, Ramon. And that mission and purpose is not for you to be married and have 3 beautiful children and do the job that you do, but He has a whole lot more. Those are just avenues as we go through life that we need. If you live in this Rockland County, you need certain things. You need a place to live. You need a car to drive, and you need money to pay your bills. Those are all things that we need, but that's not our calling. Our calling that God has a mission and a purpose for us. So today we're going to talk about Foundation 101C. Last week, Martine did an awesome job of talking about Sarah. Right? She did an awesome job. I was going to talk about it, but I said, Peter, you're not a woman. You'll never understand what it is not to have a child. So you needed a woman to discuss this. But before I go all of our messages, I'm so excited about I'm in this great, crazy mood right now. We have a grandmother in our midst. I know the grandmothers, but I'm talking about a new grandmother.
Yes.
In our midst. Yes. I'm not calling any names, but if you look around and see someone smiling, her daughter Monique had a beautiful baby. Boy, yes, I knew that. Baby boy this past week. No, I did. She sent me the picture. I saw the baby.
His name is Noah.
Beautiful baby boy. So let's give Grandma a hand and Uncle Don and all that. Congratulations, Grandma. We're going to remember Vivian. We're going to remember a few people who are not here. Okay, Velma, who comes in when she's not working. She lost her brother. I spoke to her. So things are going on and people are going through things. Remember, like I said, Vivian again. We're going to continue to pray for her. She's just going through some rough time right now. All right? All right. Anything else? If not, let's get into the message. Martine's talked last week, and like I said, she did a good job. But I want to show you something a little different this week on the same subject. And this is what the Lord showed me this week, and I had to go back and check into it and make sure that I am not crazy for thinking the way that I think. The more I seek it, the more that He reveals stuff to me. So as we talk about, Sarah was a barren woman, right? Now, it says Sarah was barren, and we believe she was barren because she never had any children until she was 75 years old. Right? 75, 80. Someplace right there. Can't remember, 85. She never had any children. So we just assume that, even though the scripture says she was barren. But I want to talk to you about something when when God has a mission or purpose in your life or for your life, He does things to keep you where He wants to keep you from not having what you desire to have. And sometimes you may look at it and say, I'm barren, but God is saying, no, you're not barren, it's just that I'm not ready to release you yet. So sometimes you got certain things that we don't have, or we may think, well, this is not for me. I'm just not a good person, or this curse is on me, and certain things is going on in my life. When God is saying, no, that's what the Word is saying, but I have a mission and a purpose for your life that's going to bring more glory to you than you can see. So don't look at what's going on in your life and thinking you should have some of the things you don't have right now. If you remain faithful, God will come and provide in the due time what He wants to provide. But I want to look at, when I have a covenant keeper, right? As we learn that we are not just Christians, but we're what? We're in a covenant relationship with God. So that means that we cut covenant, just like I use that the marriage ring is a covenant between Martins and I, that this covenant, every time I look at this ring, it reminds me of what? That I cut a covenant with her. And if I go against this covenant, I go against the covenant between her and I and between God. Right? So now, we have a covenant with God. And what's that covenant? Circumcision, right? He said, this is how the people will know that the children of Israel are His, by the covenant of circumcision. That's the sign. But in these last days, as you know, women cannot get circumcised. But God says what? I'm going to circumcise the heart. So we all are circumcised by our heart to know that what? We are in a covenant relationship with God. So because we're in this covenant relationship, He has to keep His covenant and we got to keep ours. But guess what? We are not good covenant keepers. We keep breaking the covenant. And the reason why we keep breaking the covenant, because why? We have an advocate who comes and brings something against what we have set up. And when we our weakest moment, He capitalized on that situation. And guess what? We become covenant breaker. Not that we intended to break the covenant, but at the moment that He brings to let you aware of certain things. That's what we're going to talk about today. And this is what the Lord showed me about Sarah. We know that God says to Abraham, and you can look up here, Genesis 12. The Lord says to Abraham, leave your native country, your relatives and your father's family, and go into a land that I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation. Remember that, right? I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you what? Famous. Now, as God is saying this to Abraham, right? Guess who's also listening to this conversation? The enemy. He's listening to what God is saying to him, right? And you will be a blessing to others, and I will make those who bless you, I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you. Now listen to this. Abraham departed as the Lord has instructed him. And Lot went with him. Okay, you all know about Lot and all that. Listen, verse 5. He took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and they traveled, I'm jumping ahead, and headed for Canaan when they arrived in Canaan. Now, you look at this story here. Abraham, God called Abraham. But I want you to think, Abraham never mentioned the beauty of his wife. Right? He never said, well, I'm going to enter into Canaan and I have this beautiful woman and they're going to kill me and take my wife. He never said that. Now, listen to this now. So, Abraham traveled through the land as far as Shechem, right? Shechem. Shechem. Shechem, that's it. Then he set up a camp beside the oak of Meribah. At that time, the area was inhabited by the Canaanites. Not once did he talk about what? The beauty of his wife. Listen to that. Watch verse 7. Then the Lord appeared to Abraham. I will give you this land to you and to your descendant. And Abraham built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord, who had appeared to him. After that, Abraham traveled south and set up camp in the hill country with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built another altar and dedicated to the Lord when he worshipped the Lord. Abraham continued to travel. Now, you see he's traveling around, right? He never mentioned what? His wife. Right? Now listen to this. Then, verse 9. Then Abraham traveled south by stages towards another. Abraham and Sarah in Egypt. Listen to this now. At that time, there was a severe famine struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abraham to go down to Egypt, where he lived as a foreigner. As he approached the border of Egypt, Abraham said to who? To his wife, look, you're what? Wasn't she beautiful in Canaan? Wasn't she beautiful when he's traveling around in Egypt? But remember what God said to him. The Lord appeared to Abraham in verse 7. And he told Abraham that he's going to do what? Give him all this land. Right? And who's going to, and not only land, but I will give it the land to your what? Your descendant. Abraham didn't have any children, did he? So the enemy knew that. So now, listen to what Abraham called unto himself. Because when Abraham approached Egypt, he says to what? Look. And Abraham said to Sarah, look, you are what? A very beautiful woman. Why did that come up in the conversation? Huh? Why did it come up? Huh? But why wasn't he protecting his wife in Canaan? The Lord, huh?
That's where God said he would be, right? You don't get out of Egypt, the descendants.
I like the way you guys are thinking. I want to show you guys something. Bear with me. Remember, God said to him, I'm going to give you all those things. God promised him, and God, what? Cut covenant with Abraham, right? So God already told Abraham, this is what's going to happen. Abraham believed God, the scripture said, was counted to him as righteousness. But when Abraham came to Egypt, Abraham feared to think that God was what? Take care of him. So he tried to do what? Take things into his own hands. And not only that, but he called out the obvious for the enemy to see it. Because he said, you are a what? A beautiful woman. Now the enemy heard when Abraham said that. Now listen to this now. I want you to think about how this works. A beautiful woman, right? So listen to this. Listen to this. When the palace officials saw her, they sung her praises to who? Now, just think about it for a minute. A woman walking to Egypt. Egypt, if you look at what Egypt was a what? A world that has been, what's the word I'm looking for? A civilization that has many different officials, and it was one of the biggest cities at that time, right, in the whole world. So why would the officials sing her praises to the king? Why would they take her beauty all the way to the highest authority? The enemy is trying to disrupt the plan. But Abraham opened the door for the plan to be what? Because he called it out. Now, he said, listen to this. When the officials saw her, at this time, Sarah is about 75 years old. 75. Now she's a hot 75-year-old woman that they're going to sing her praises, and not only sing her praises. Now just think about it. Someone come to Washington D.C. A beautiful woman enter Washington D.C. and they take this woman all the way to see the president. All right, let me change my. Let me change. So someone take this beautiful woman and take it to who?
Just like Pharaoh.
Just like Pharaoh, right? He's like Pharaoh. That's true. That's true. So he take him to see Pharaoh, and they talk about her beauty. Now you think about it. Pharaoh has the authority to do what? To take her. See, the enemy will set it up where? When he wants to confuse what God is trying to do in your life, he's going to set someone who's higher above you to take away what God's plan for your life is. Because why? You invite the enemy into your life, into your relationship, and guess what the enemy does? He comes in there to mess it up. And he never uses small people. He always uses someone what? Above has the authority. So Abraham says, you're a beautiful woman. So they sung her praise, and listen to this. The praise of her, their king, and Sarah was taken into the palace. Then Pharaoh gave Abraham many gifts because of her. Now, he never met her before. She's 75. He takes her. So even though he messed up, God is still what? Blessing Abraham. But here is the kicker I want to talk to you. I want you to think about this. The enemy knew that Sarah was not barren. They were only barren between who? Abraham and Sarah. Because God had an appointed time for them to bring what? This child into the world. So the enemy says what? If I can do what? Now we know this because here how we know it, and we got to think about this. I know I'm going to hit you guys very hard. This is sweet when the Lord reveals it to you. See, here it goes. He said, listen to this. Abraham and Sarai, God kept them from having children. We know that Abraham was not married because Abraham had a relationship with who? Hagar, and they had a child. So now when you remove Abraham out of the picture, the only person is left is who? Sarah. Now, when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, the Lord says what? Whose seed shall crush his head? The seed of the woman. So the devil know that now. Because you remember, what Abraham and Sarah was going through, Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was what? 90 years old. When Isaac came about. This is only God could allow this thing to take place. Because God says to Abraham, as Martin says last week, when I come back next year this time, you're going to have a son. And that's exactly what happened. So the enemy knew that if he could what? If he could not only disrupt it, but if he could mess up. What do you say? Yes, how would he stop it? By having Pharaoh take her as his wife. And if he takes her as his wife, what is he going to do with her? You know, you have to say it. You don't have to say it, but you know. He's going to have a relationship with her. And if you have a relationship with her, guess what's going to happen? She's going to have a child. And if she has a child, that's going to mess up what? God's plan. Because it's the seed of the woman, not the seed of the man. And the enemy knew, so Sarah was not barren, only between her and Abraham. Because why? God has called them out. And guess what? There are times when we think we are barren about certain things. We are not. God is just saying, it's not time for me to release what I want to give you yet. But at times we go out of God's plan because why? We can't wait on God. Just like Abraham and Sarah couldn't wait on God. They went and had Hagar to the mission, but God says, well, I have a covenant and I'm keeping that I have to keep. And because I have to keep it, I have to protect who? The seed of the woman. He didn't protect the seed of the man because his promise said the seed that's going to crush the enemy's head is coming through who? The seed of the woman. Are you following me?
Yes.
But because of that, listen, I want you to see how the enemy plans work. So he messed up this plan, right? Because listen to what God did. Hey, listen, I want you to remember this. Remember these two words here. Female what? I'm going to give you a little think of again. Guess who one of these female servants was? Hagar. Because the enemy says, even though you may mess this one up, I'm going to have another plan. So what he cannot mess up, he's going to try to do what? Replace. You follow me? Okay, good. Then he gave him female servants, right? Now listen to this. But the Lord sent a terrible plague upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. The Lord must keep his covenant, and he will do anything to keep his covenant. So Pharaoh summoned Abraham and accused him sharply. Why have you done this to me? He demanded. Why did you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister and allow me to take her as my wife? Now, just think about it. Every beautiful woman that comes into Egypt, Pharaoh take to be his wife. And why would the king of Egypt be wasting his time with a 75-year-old woman? When you are going through things in your life, the enemy makes things look more beautiful than it really is. Yeah. You're having problems in your marriage, right? And guess what you do? You go to work and you see some people you see every day. They look the same, they act the same, and you know them. But on this very particular day, they look and say, baby, you look beautiful today. Now, you see these people all the time. You didn't change, you look the same. Shelly, you look beautiful today, Shelly. But what's going on in Shelley's head and what's going on in Shelley's life might be completely different. And by the enemy knows that, he does what? He brings out something to catch her attention. And the person who you have seen may never even talk to you before, may never even want to have a conversation before to you, may just walk past you like they never even recognize you are there. But then they say, oh, Tanya, you look nice today, Tanya. And based on where you act, the enemy is going to do what? He's going to use that to get your mind. So Pharaoh says here, why did you do this to me? And God says, no, you're not touching her. Because of Abraham's wife. Now, verse 19, now then, here is your wife. Take her and get out where? Of here. Why would the king of Egypt take such an interest into a 75-year-old woman entering into his kingdom? Because when the enemy wants to destroy you, he allowed the people who are above you that could take anything they want from you to recognize who you are. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to escort them, and he sent Abraham out of the country along with his wife and all his possessions. The enemy is at work, and the enemy is still at work. Even in your life and in my life, God has a plan and a purpose for you. You may not have what you desire, but I'm here to tell you that God says in the fullness of time, it will come to pass. It may not look promising. It may look like you're not going to get it, but God says if you are faithful, I will let it come true. Okay, now listen to this. Now, listen to this. So this is when he went to Egypt. Abraham is traveling again. Now Abraham moved south to the Negev, right, and lived for a while between Kadesh and Shur, and then he moved to Ger, where while living there, as a foreigner. Now, it doesn't mention Abraham talking about his wife here again. And he's moving all over the place. Right? But look who he gets in contact with again. Abraham introduced his wife Sarah by saying, she's my sister. So the king of Abimelech of here sent for Sarai. Egypt, the king, and now another king. Why are all these kings taking so much interest in Sarai's life? A 70, maybe 76, 77-year-old woman there? Because why? The enemy wants to do what? Prevent what God has planned to come true. And listen to this. So King Abimelech of Ger sent for Sarah and had her brought to his palace again. Now, Sarah came from a place where she was living, where they worship idols, and all of a sudden, because God said, I'm going to bless them, guess what comes up now? She's getting introduced to palaces and beautiful things. Be careful when you ladies, when men is bringing you flowers and beautiful diamonds and necklace and stuff. Wants to treat you like a queen. Be careful, man, when woman sending you stuff. Be careful because they have a plan and a purpose that the enemy sees that they want to use them to get you and I. Right? We got to be careful. So where am I? Verse 3. But that night, God came to Abimelech in a dream and told him, you are what? You are a dead man. Just imagine God come and say, you are a dead man. Because why? The enemy knows that if Abimelech takes Sarai for his wife, as we said before, just like Pharaoh, she would conceive and bear a son. And if she conceives and bears a son, guess what happens to all that God's plan was? So you see, even though God has his plan, we play a what? A big part in that plan. And he helped us to go through that plan. Even though we are a bunch of unfaithful, unwilling people to keep his plan, he continued to protect and keep us. Do you know how many times the enemy comes to destroy you and I? Well, God says, if you touch that person, you're good as dead. Do you know how many times your boss may plan, I'm going to fire you, and God says, if you fire that person, you're good as dead? You have no idea when the enemy wants to touch your children, and God says, if you touch that child, you're good as dead. See, when our child come home back from school and they're safe and sound, it's not because the enemy wants them to come safe and sound. It's because God says, what? If you touch that child, you're good as dead. Because what? When you are called out by the Lord, the enemy spies you out, and anything that belongs to you, he wants to destroy. Because what? That's the best way for you to turn your back on God, right? And do the things that he wants to do in your life. And if that happens, guess what? You will not be able to produce what you want to produce. Tanya, there's a life in you when it comes to certain things. And the enemy will try to do everything he can to kill that life. And he tried to make you feel like you cannot make it. He tried to make you feel like you cannot make it through. Because why? He knows that your life inside of you is going to produce, but it's his best thing to do to cripple that life. And he will use everything he can. But God says to him, man, you're good as what? You're dead. For the woman you have taken is already what? Already married. But Abimelech had not slept with her what? Yet. So his plan was to do what? Sleep with her. Because the enemy made her look what? Extra beautiful in his eyes. Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did Abraham tell me she's my sister? Why is he going around lying? See, Abraham, even though God gave him all blessings, it's natural for us to be what? Get fearful and discouraged. So even though sometimes you're going through certain things, and even though you're a godly man or a godly woman, when you're going through certain things that's coming over you, it's okay in a sense to say what? I'm afraid I'm a human being. But God knew Abraham's weakness. And when God cut covenant with Abraham's weakness, he knew about Abraham, and he knew that what? He has to be the one that what? Carried the covenant and not base it on us. If God ever leaves it to us to spread the gospel around the world, guess what happened? It will never leave from where it started from. And sometimes he has to light fire under us for us to do what? To run. Because we get comfortable in our seats. We get comfortable where we are. She herself, and listen to this, she herself, verse 5, said, he's my brother. Now, in a sense, he was lying because Abraham and Sarah was half sister. But he was lying because he did it out of what? When he married her, he said that she was his wife. But now because he was afraid, and just think about it, he gave up his wife to another man. What a chicken. What a chicken. But it's just to show that what?
Did he fear for his life if he?
Oh yeah.
He didn't. Because the king, whatever the king wants, the king would get.
Yeah, but I would rather die than someone just come and just take it, and he's just okay with it. Remember, he just, and not only that, he had God that what? Promised him. See, there are certain days, there's always a few of us in the prayer line on Tuesday night. Sometimes, last week I was there for half an hour by myself praying. I think I was praying, the music was going on, and I was praying like other people was on the prayer line. I had two choices then. I could get discouraged, or I could say what? Pray. See, the enemy will allow you. Even this morning, you come to church, a lot of people are not here this morning. Sometimes you feel like, oh, what's going on here? But the Lord has to remember, Peter, it's not about you. It's just go and do what you want to do. That's why if there's 2 of you in here, I'm going to preach the same message that there's 100 of you in here. Because why? It's all about him and what his plan was. The enemy is going to use everything to do what? To discourage you. We came here this morning, the place smelled of fish. It's better because we mopped it with chlorine. The floors, you see, they look clean now. It was filthy. The tables are dirty. And we come in here and I'm sitting and we're setting up and I'm sort of saying, Lord, these things will allow you to do what? To get discouraged. But then you got to think about it. Who are you doing it for? You're doing it for him. And the enemy, the enemy will say, you know what, do something. So when they come in here this morning, they don't want to come here. And guess what? That could have stopped the spirit from flowing in this place this morning. But Elaine come in, Elaine says, what? Let's clean. Fred said, it's not our place. He said, when we get our place, we're going to remember to appreciate it. And we all get together, we start mopping, and Ernst came over, we start mopping the floor, and get the floor down. Because why? God has a mission and a purpose for Living Word, and we're the one that can stop it based on what we look and what we see. And I refuse to see what the enemy wants for me to see. In my eyes, I see glory, and I see God's glory. And I will not allow the enemy to let me see what he made me see. Because he tries. The same thing at home. Everything I preach about, I always try to bring it back to home, how it works at home. The enemy will do everything he can to mess up our home life. Because why? That's the most comfortable place we have. That's why our souls are let go at home. And he will try to do everything he can to do what? To mess that up. And the best way, let me tell you, the best way for him to stop a calling, a ministry, a job, anything, is to mess up where? The house. And guess who he works with the most? His spouse. Because why? The closest relationship to his. And if the house is messed up, guess what messed up? Everything else. Not only does it flow into the kids, it flows into the what? The job. It flows into the church. It just flows. And guess what? People get discouraged and people say, I don't want to go to church. I don't want to do all of these things. And guess what? And the enemy says, yes! And he makes it worse. One news after another keeps coming and you keep hearing things like that. I can't take this anymore. And Satan is saying, yes, I got him. I got him. But if we just are faithful to him, he will say, I will bring you through. See, if we just depend on him. See, Abraham messed up. But God protected who? Sarah. Because God said, if you touch this woman, you're a dead man. But verse 8, but he did not sleep with her yet. Will you destroy innocent nation? Didn't Abraham tell me she's my sister and her herself? Said he's my brother. I'm completely innocent. My hands are what? Clean. In the dream, God responded, yes. I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from what? Sinning against her. See, you have a God that will keep the enemy from doing anything he wants to you and I. You have a God that will keep the enemy from touching your house, your children, anything you want, if you just want. Trust him. And if you live a good life. See, remember the terms of the covenant that God made with Abraham. God said to Abraham, he must what? Live faithfully and blamelessly. Those are the only two requirements that Abraham was to keep. And God was the one who's going to walk through the covenant. And look, how many times did Abraham mess this covenant up? But God kept it. That's why I kept you from sinning against her, and why I did not let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, and he will pray for you. For he is a what? A prophet. So you see, a prophet can have what? Downtime. A prophet can go through what? Time of fear. And time of doubt and uncertainty. You know, I tell people all the time, when we're working for the Lord, right, we are brave. We tell people all the time, you must do this, and we call God and say, Jesus, do this. And the best person that came to my mind is Elijah. You all know about Elijah, right? And Elijah was one that called down fire from heaven, right, to burn up the sacrifice, the water, and all of that stuff. He's the one that killed 850 prophets of Jezebel, right? He killed them. No. 850. He called on fire from heaven. There were times when he says to one of his servants, go and tell King Ahab, because Ahab was looking for him at that time. Go and tell King Ahab I'm going to be right here. And the servant said to him, I'm not going to tell King Ahab anything, my servant, my Lord, because I don't know where the Lord is going to take you. Because at one moment you're here and the Lord takes you over here. And then what? King Ahab come looking for you and he's going to kill you in a lion. Because the Lord takes you wherever he wants. That's how much in sync Elijah and God was. So he did all of this. So now, there were some men where soldiers went to look for him. And he was on top of the mountain, and he climbed up the mountain, and he called fire down from heaven, and he burned up the soldiers. And he did it several times, right? And then after he killed these prophets, Jezebel said to him, if I don't kill you by the end of the day tomorrow, such and such and such. What did Elijah do? He picked up his feet and he said, I'm running. He had no idea where he was going. He just running. God never told him to run. So what happened to the same man that killed 850 prophets? See, when we're working for the Lord, we can tell people anything we can. But when it's become personal, we run. See, when Elijah was fighting for God, he had God in his back. And he said, in the name of the God of Israel, he's doing all of this stuff. But Jezebel didn't say, I'm going to kill your God. He said, I'm going to kill you. And he knew that she had the power to do it. So what did he do? He ran. And God made him. I said, Elijah, where you going, man? He goes, I'm the only one, Jezebel, she's going to kill me. And I'm the only one that's left, so I ran. you know, you're not the only one. I have 7,000 who has not what? Bowed their knees to the gods. See, when it's about us, it's a different story. When we are doing things that's not godly, we find excuses to say we have the right to do it. But if it's somebody else's, we call them out in an instant. Okay. Now, return the woman and his wife. He's a prophet. Then you will live. But if you don't return her to him, you can be for sure that I will what? You and all your people will what? Will die. Because God, remember, had a promise to keep, a covenant. And the seed of the woman, Sarah could not be polluted by any man. She couldn't be touched by any other man. You see, Abraham could be touched because it wasn't the seed of the man, it was the seed of the woman. You see how amazing this is? But God kept them from having children. Now, Sarai was not happy in those things. When we serve God, I want to let us know He may put us through some uncomfortable situation. Because look at what Sarah was going through. All her friends around her was having children. The people in Abraham's family was having children. They were all multiplying except who? The woman that's in charge. Because she was, in a sense, the first lady, I don't like that term, but that was the master's wife. And everyone else is having children, but who? The master's wife. So when she hears the kids playing on the outside, guess what it does to her heart and to her mind? It cripples her. But this was all God's plan. So some of the favors that you see other people are enjoying, don't be jealous of it. Because God is saying, I got better things than these for you. And when He works in your life, He gives you things that you never imagined. Because if you have continued as others, Lord, you just have a child. But this Sarah, had a son that brought who into the world? The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Our redemption. And it started with a woman that God kept from having children. And that's one of the worst things a woman could never do. Who never want to go through, not able to have a child. Many women get married because they say, what? My clock is ticking. And they get married. I know one lady, she said, my clock is ticking. So she went and got married to this crazy man who's driving her crazy. Because she said, I need to find someone because my clock is ticking. But sometimes if we wait for the Lord will give us the man no matter what age we are, and He allows us to have children. Because why? He says now is the fullness of time. Abimelech took some of his sheep and goats, cattle, male and female servants, and he presented them to Abraham. He also returned his wife to her. Then Abimelech said, look over the land, choose any place you would like to live. This was the last time that Abimelech, that Abraham ever mentioned how beautiful his wife was. He never did again. You think he learned his lessons? Right? No, he didn't. No, he didn't. See, the devil has two missions. His job was to replace the seed. That's when God says to Abraham, I'm going to bless you and your seed is going to multiply. He said what? Why don't you use who? Ishmael. Ishmael wasn't the seed of the woman. Ishmael was the seed of the bondwoman. So when he couldn't pollute Sarah's line, the same female servant that she got out of Egypt, the devil said, I'm not giving up. Now last week I was talking to, who was it? It was Patricia and Elaine. And they were saying that Abraham should have said no when Hagar said, take my servant. But for 10 years, 10 years it took for Abraham to say, okay. But for 10 years, Sarah walked around with that pain of not having a child. And for 10 years, he says what? No. But for 10 years, she did what? She nagged him, thank you. And after he nagged him, what did she do in the end? He says, okay. See, when the enemy wants to mess up your life, he's not going to what? He's not going to stop. He's going to use everything he can, because why? His mindset, the enemy's mindset, is to bring Ishmael into the world. And once Ishmael, think about it. Why did he have a son and not a girl? Because why? That's the replacement seed. The replacement son. And Abraham, when God says to Abraham, you're going to have, when you come back and he blesses him, so you're going to have a child, Abraham says what? No. How about we use who? Ishmael. But God says, no, not Ishmael. It's the seed of the promise. And you see, Isaac was the promise. That's why what? God says to him what? Go and take him and do what? Sacrifice him. He's the type of who? Jesus. But God says, no, he's not the one. That's why God had the lamb that was in the bush. And the lamb is who? The type of who? Jesus. So then blessed him and gave him wherever he wants. And listen to this. And he said to Sarai, look, I'm giving to your brother 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all these witnesses. To this compensated you for any wrong I may have done to you. This will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is what? Is clear. See, the enemy's idea is to give us a bad reputation. He will allow you to put you in a situation where you come out looking like you're not clean. But when you serve a God, God says, what? I'm going to take care of that. And in this case right here, even though they put themselves, God says, what? I'm going to clear your reputation. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife. And listen to this. His wife. He already got wives. His female servants. He already got female servants. And their children. So they can have children. Sorry. So they can have children. So you see how important God's covenant was. That he blocked everyone in Abimelech's kingdom from what? From having children. You don't understand how awesome each one of you are when you follow God. God will stop anything from performing if anyone is trying to get you. Amen. You just got to know who you are. Amen. Sometimes when the company is not flourishing and they're trying to, God is saying, I'm stopping this company. No matter what you're going through, all you got to do is what? Trust the Lord. He will stop anything. Listen, he opened the Red Sea for the children of Israel to go over. He called water out of a rock. He brought manna down from heaven. Is there anything too hard for God to do for you if you trust him? Amen. You just don't believe him. But the enemy puts certain situations to make us what? Fearful. But because we're human beings, guess what? We fall for it. Even though I read this, it gives me joy to know that even a man of God can go through the things that we go through. A lot of us want to think we're super Christians, but we're not. We feel hurt. We feel pain. We get discouraged. We lay in bed sometimes. We don't want to get up and go anywhere. We don't want to go to church. We don't want to pray. We don't want to read our Bibles. Guys, these are normal things. But the enemy plays what? On those normalities. We have to get up and do what? You know, we could sit and watch a movie for 3-4 hours. We could sit in a party for 3-4 hours, whatever we want to do. And it never bothers us. But as soon as we're about to take up the scriptures and read it, guess what? You sleepy? I said, Lord, find 5 minutes to pray. Guess what? We're so busy we can't find 5 minutes to pray. And the enemy let us do that all the time. Why? Because if we pray, guess what's going to happen? The atmosphere is going to change. And if we read our Bibles, guess what's going to happen? We will hear the Spirit talks to us, and He will reveal things to us. And then guess what? The enemy says, the dumber they are, is the more I can what? You know, it's funny when President Trump said, I like the uneducated. He said, I like the uneducated. Because what? If you don't know, you just what? You just follow. But God doesn't want us to be uneducated about Him. He wants us to have a relationship with Him. That no matter what we are going through, no matter what we experience, He's saying that I will be the one that's going to fight for you. You see, Abraham and Sarah got in contact with the king. But this is to show you that no matter who it is, the king of Egypt could not stand before who? Your God. The king of Abimelech could not stand before who? Your God. So if there's no king, that means that your boss, your wife and children, your husband, whoever it is, can't stand before who? Your God. So you don't need to be fearful of who? That's what the scripture said. I will give you what? The spirit of what?
Fear.
Fear. Isn't that what the Spirit says? That's what the scripture says. But guess what we do? We're not there yet, are we? We're still on this journey. And I want to thank the Lord that as we are not there, we are climbing. We are going and we are growing. It's not easy living this Christian walk. Especially when you know you have an enemy who's out to mess things up for you. He is. So when things are not going well at home, guess what you need to do? Get down on your knees. Get to praying. Because things is out of whack. When things are not going good at the job, guess what you need to do? Pray. Because the enemy is going to come and he's going to mess up everywhere you are supposed to feel comfortable. Because you spend time, a lot of time, two places, at home and where? And at work. And those are the places he caused as much confusion as much as possible. To do what? To discourage you. That's when he comes into the home, and you got to be careful, guys. The enemy will use, and I'm learning through this, when you get married, he uses the smallest, stupidest things to cause a fight. And then when after he blows up on fire and stuff is all over the place, you sit back and go, what was that about? You don't remember what you fight. But there is such a war in the home. There's such a war in your life. You go to work and people just come and just start war with you, and he just messes you up. And guess what? The enemy is laughing and says, look, I got her. And guess what? Then you can't be what? The witness that you need to be. Because if you're not on target, guess what the enemy is? You're not even going to see the person in front of you who God is saying you need to go talk to that person, but you're so upset that the enemy just says, you can't talk to that person right now. Then Abraham prayed. I like that. To God. And God healed him. You can pray for people and God will heal them. You are a messenger of God. And you can pray for people and God will heal them. And his servants, his wife and his female servants, so they can have children. So the Lord had caused all the women to be what? Because of what happened with Abraham's wife Sarah. You see how important the seed is? The seed of the woman, barren between them two for that moment, but not barren outside. Because God wanted to show Abraham and Sarah, it's all about me. I did this. Even though it costs us pain, Tanya, he's in control of your life. At this time, I'm not going to take it one time. We're going to do communion. Let's stand for a minute. I want you to know he's a covenant keeper. And because He's a covenant keeper, He has a plan and a purpose for us. Each one of us in this room, He has a plan and a purpose for us. The question is, are we willing to be faithful and dependent upon Him? Are we willing to let the process go through? Are we willing to say, yes, Lord, to your ways and to you? All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen. You know what, since we don't have a lot of us here today, what we're going to do is just have people come up. It'll be easier.
You unraveled me with a melody. You surround me with